Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I'm very honored to have Jeff Berlin here with me. He is a bass player and he's played with some great acts and great people. Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been a musician all my life. I'm a violinist, an ex-violinist. I've played with a lot of the progressive rock bands, like I did a little bit with Yes, played with Bill Bruford, played with Alan Holdsworth. I've been involved in bass education. I've been recording with different people. I have lots of solo records. So I would say I just keep marching on in music. And then I did Jack Bruce retrospective. That's my latest one. Jack is a hero to me. When I was a boy, he was the one that set me on the musical path that I'm on in order to create interesting things on the bass. Today there's amazing bass players around. I mean, just phenomenal bass players in this time in history. When Jack came out, he was pretty much the only one. I mean, there was Jamerson with Motown and Paul McCartney with the Beatles, but in terms of actual bass impact, Jack Bruce was it. So that's one reason why I took to him. And the other reason was his compositions were so great. So Jack really was a great influence for me.
Well, dare I say, Cream was probably the best trio that's ever come out. I mean, that talent, that was a super group.
That was a super group because they had three equal players in it. It was a triumvirate, I guess is the word, of three equal giants. And I don't know how you could equal it. So that's certainly what got to me, especially hearing that bass player within that trio setting, that he was so original in his harmony and his bass tone and everything. So that's why I've been having him in my life since I'm a teenager. So that's the reason why I did the record, to honor that guy. After he passed away, to honor him, I wanted to do that. So,
when I started out listening to music, John Entwistle was like the man. And, I thought that bass was powerful, but then when I got into Cream, that it's like it just kind of took over when you put on that record, and it just was in your face.
I agree with you.
Now let's get into talking about the album itself. The first song is called Creamed. It sounded like I Feel Free. And then he kind of got into Politician, and then into White Room,
and then into Sunshine.
I love the way you arranged it. You went into all four songs and you can tell what it was, but it was yours. In fact, the whole album it's yours.
You're more than kind. It's one I feel would make listeners more excited if they hear something new. And the challenge to me was, how do I make songs that many people already know? How do I present it so that it is new? The first song, Creamed, was my sort of melange of different Jack Bruce compositions, and done in the manner that you heard. So it's mine in regards to arrangement and vision, but it couldn't have happened without Jack's songs.
Well, I get into this conversation a lot, but today's music, it's like they just sample somebody else's material and change the beat, or everything sounds like it's made on a computer. It doesn't sound like people are live in the studio anymore. You actually took this music, and like I say, you made it your own, even though you can tell what it is, but to come in and actually play the instruments in the studio, you're not sampling off of a Cream album.
No.
I think that this generation needs to hear that more, and not this manufactured corporation stuff that comes out.
Well, the thing with artistic taste is that it's personal. So I have my preference in music. This is what this record was supposed to represent. Of fully dedicated to the great players of 2022. being showcased in different ways in unique arrangements. So people who like electronic music or sampling music have this era's presentation to influence them. You know what I'm saying? It's like what is around is what the general consensus of music is all about. But I've already had, I mean, not a lot, but a few responses from young kids who said, wow, is that a real bass? You know, I said, yeah, it is. And what did you think? And they go, oh my gosh, and listen to the guitar. So it was a couple of guys, you know, most of my audiences are older guys.
Yeah.
But I think that some of the younger guys, if they pick up on this, might be pretty impacted by what live great players are capable of if they're put in a situation to showcase their playing abilities.
Now, was that fretless that you were using?
No.
No. Did you use fretless on this album?
No.
Wow, it sounded like it though.
A lot of people say that because I'm very good at the legato. I would say it's probably a legacy of my violin days. But like on the last tune, Fuimus, which is a Scottish term for the Bruce clan, and there's a lot of moing moing kind of sound, you know, coming in there, and it's a fretted bass. I only used one bass on this record, and but used it to, I would say, possibly its most the different varieties that I could use it for. So yeah, it sounds fretless, and then like the solo in Creamed, it sounds like it's going through, you know, a couple of Marshall stacks, and then this one sounds like it's going through a chorus. And I wanted to make the bass not a feature but a part. So yeah, it sounded fretless to some guys, but I don't play fretless. But I can make a fretted bass sound that way if called upon.
That's crazy. What is your bass of choice?
Are we when you do your podcast, is the visible part or is it just audio?
Well, we do both.
Let me show it to you.
Oh, unfortunately, the people listening won't get to see this.
Oh, they're not. Well, okay. I'm holding up a court bass called a Rhythmic, and this is bass that I used on the record, and it's really my bass of choice when I record and when I practice and when I write, because of the bass tone. It's so fantastic. You can even hear it over a cell phone. May I demonstrate?
Sure, that'd be wonderful.
Well, here we have an amp, just my amp, and we have my cell phone. But the bass tone, I would imagine, could you hear it?
Oh yeah, beautiful, man.
It's pretty
Beautiful.
resonant, and I like it because you can sort of really so it has a great growl, has great presence. Court made a beautiful instrument, and they're all like that.
I think my favorite fretless player would be Tony Franklin.
Interesting. He's a great one. He's a great one. I don't know how I get this. Well, I don't play on the fret. See, a lot of bass players, as they learn how to play, might be fretty. They might. You see what I mean? That fretty thing. And I tend not to. Follow what I'm saying? That legato-y kind of beautiful fluid sound. That's what I like if it's called for that.
Theme from an Imaginary Western.
In my opinion, that's Jack Bruce's most famous
Mhm.
song in his post-Cream repertoire. That's the song I believe that everybody knows. I think he did it when he played with Ringo Starr's band, when he was in that group. When he did solo concerts, he played that song, played piano on it. So that's why I chose it. Anybody that's a fan of Jack's is going to be familiar with Theme from an Imaginary Western. But I had to change it up a little bit because, again, I didn't want to do a straight cover. So I did little things to it.
Is there anything that he's played that might be a little more difficult to learn?
I would say any new piece of music might be a little difficult to learn until one learns it. So everything is a challenge in that regard. I can't think of anything that he's played that might be challenging in its compositional sense. I think that all his songs are accessible, but they're odd. They're interesting. They're quirky. They're totally Jack Bruce harmony. So, but I can't honestly say any of the bass parts or any of the songs are any more of a challenge to anybody than any other song that one wants to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Mary Had a Little Lamb is challenging for me. So.
Hold on. I got to do it since you mentioned. So, when I'm playing, I can make mistakes too. So, I just got to improvise.
Do you listen to some of the newer bass players, say like Les Claypool?
Yes, Les Claypool is just fantastic, and he's a phenomenal entertainer too. His thing is really special. I definitely can see why people love him. And there's gee whiz, I mean, where do we begin? I mean, I had a hand surgery. I had a surgery some months ago. Mm-hmm. And in my youth, I was known for being one of the fast guys.
Yeah.
The technically able guys, And I was sort of that way up until the time that I had so much hand pain that I had to go in for a surgery, and I lost that ability.
Oh, no.
Reason I'm mentioning this, well, it opened, one door closes, another opens. So, yeah. I can do other things that I felt kind of added to even in a more original approach to the bass. Mm-hmm. I found new ways to play. I'll demonstrate one in a second because it's an interesting way to play. But to answer your question about do I listen to bass players, I do. I mean, Damien Erskine is a virtuoso. Matt Garrison is a virtuoso. Hadrian Farad is a virtuoso. And there's so many, I just can't think. John Patitucci is a long time famous jazz electric bassist who's really great. Victor Wooten is one of the greatest slappers and two-handed bass players ever. Mm-hmm. There's a teacher at Berkeley named Steve Bailey, who's the head of the bass department. And he invented a kind of a raking thing whereby he actually has a 6-string fretless and it sounds like a harp.
Right.
So it's quite remarkable. I'd never heard anybody do that. So there's that. I don't know. There's so many guys. It's really a very prolific time for bassists. And what my good fortune is, and stop me if I'm talking too much here. I apologize. But I tend to hear what people do on their instruments and the setting in which they provide it. What I did on Jack songs was to provide or put my bass, but put it into a setting or settings each song, so that the setting was as important as the bass playing, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know if I'm making sense with this, but it isn't just bass playing. It's the setting in which the bass has been played in. So it's sort of a bigger section for people to check out, a bigger opportunity for bass playing and composition. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, yeah. And then
if it doesn't, just cut this out, you know.
no, it does. But there's some bass players, just after a note or two, you can tell who they are. Where there's others that are good, but they're just kind of part of the background. I like the ones that are more in the forefront. I mean, Dusty and Intwistle. I mean, I love a good guitar, but for some reason, I've been in love with bass since I knew what music was. I don't know why.
Well, I sort of like you and I share a similar love here, I would say.
Do you have like a favorite that you love to play?
Yeah, I do. While I'm home, Jack came out. So I'm touring Jack next year. I have a band and I'm going to tour it next year. But while I'm home, I practice, and I usually take sort of play-alongs, jazz standard play-alongs, and practice on that. And it helps me greatly. Keeps me lyrical, keeps me melodic. And, you know, I did that actually. I went down to play some gigs in South America a few months ago, about June, I think it was. And I used the play-alongs to prepare me for those shows. So that kept me supple, you know. So that's what I like to play. I don't generally play songs of other bass players, but I will take a transcription of Keith Jarrett or Wynton Marsalis and practice it. My thing is to sort of enter into non-bass practice because it helps me when I play bass. When we learn things on our instrument that is not usual for our instrument, we also know how to play things that are usual for our instrument. Excuse me, all of us are like that. So I tend to have the usual and the unusual. And I'd say that other bass players like me have that as well. We have different things because we've learned or practiced different kind of music. How do I do this? Can you hear this?
Oh yeah, yeah, the jazz, yeah.
This is a Cannonball Adderley solo that I wrote out because as a bassist, I'd never play this. I would never have these ideas. See, these are the ideas that came from players way better than me. And this is why I do those things. I generally don't play bass lines or listen to records and imitate them. But that's how I sort of found, I would say, maybe my particular path.
Rope Ladder to the Moon. That sounded almost like Frank Zappa-esque.
Interesting. That's maybe a song nearly as famous, one of Jack's songs that followed his Cream period, Rope Ladder to the Moon. It's another example of the interesting and quirky Jack Bruce, and it has a Bumblefoot, Ron Thal, playing the guitar solo on it, which really is one of the outstanding solos on the record. Ron plays vertically instead of horizontally, and what I mean to say is harmonically, he plays ba ba da 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 ba 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 instead of da 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 da, you know, which is horizontal. And that's really one of his outstanding musical abilities. This guy, actually, he can play anything anyways, but you listen to the solo on Rope Ladder, and it's, I would say, really one of the original recordings of guitar that you'll find these days. Really amazing.
Well, the way that you changed it up, I mean, it almost like it was influenced by Zappa. I mean, I don't know if that was what you were going for, or that's just how it turned out.
I guess that's just how it turned out. I just did my usual weird arrangement, you know, or changed the harmony so that it would become what it became. but it's pretty much a Jack song entirely, except for the solo section, which is just, I think, D minor, G7, pretty common chord changes.
Did you play with Zappa?
For a minute and a half, there's a reality about me that I've owned and will continue to own, which is there's a pre-therapy, psychotherapy Jeff, and a post-psychotherapy Jeff. And pre-therapy, I was a disagreeable guy. And that was the guy that was around during the time that I was coming up with the most fame or fame or rep at that time. So it was, unfortunately for me, the very element, the negative part of me, the hard part of me, was evident there. So the reason I mention it is because Frank rightfully fired me due to a little bit of backstage shenanigans that I did, kind of sneaky stuff, trying to get more money than other guys in the band. And it was one of the sort of legacies of that pathology. So I have a lifetime in front of me to try to present this person that I am. They can like me or not, but the old Jeff before therapy needed help. And then after I went to therapy and had gotten it, it evened things out for me. This guy in Frank's band would have been around for years.
And he's one of my heroes. I love Zappa.
Yeah, I mean, playing with him was really great, but I was not well behaved. So I was asked to leave, and he was right. I have a lot of kind of owning of that. I talked to Stanley Clark today, and the bass player. You're familiar with him, I'm sure.
I know the name, yes.
Okay. And we were chatting about that, the legacy things we've done, or the things that we have to own. And I have some, so I'm not proud of it, but there it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, life is about redemption. We make mistakes. We do things we regret. I felt like I ruined my kids' childhood because of the drinking and drugs, and I was an absentee father, even though I was in the same house, focused on myself and getting messed up. My daughter, even though she says she forgives me, I still feel like she kind of holds it against me, and I don't blame her. I would too. My boys,
I truly. Go ahead.
I was going to say my boys are more forgiving, but she's the oldest and she had to endure a lot more. So I don't blame her.
I'm the oldest, and I had to endure a lot more too. I'm in good straits with my parents. My mother passed, but my father and I are close. But the lessons were painful. I admit it. He's a Holocaust, kind of a Holocaust survivor. He ran from the Germans and went in the underground, and all kinds of remarkable stories happened to him. And my mother came from a dysfunctional family. I guess we're off Jack songs for a minute here, aren't we? So
it's okay.
There's a legacy to this, and I inherited it and paid. Was not nice. That's been one of my great regrets. I should learn to forgive myself because I'm not that guy. But you're not that guy anymore.
No.
And but it's hard for us sometimes to let things go. I admit it. It's a little hard for me to say, gee whiz, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I do this thing? And for so long. So it's a lament to me. I've never quite been able to solve it. I got to confess. Never found the 100% peace or close to it. When you change your ways and become a new person, or think you become a new person, better person, a loving person, and accepting of other people, and all the funny things that all of us are about. So sorry to preach here, but
no. This is a big part of my show, is to inspire and motivate people. And somebody's watching this and they've made mistakes in their life. They want to make things right. I mean, you owned up to it. You're on the right path, and I'm like you. I say I forgive myself, but I don't think I really have. And
Yeah,
love,
I'm similar.
loving myself is hard as well, but we 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 have to keep on going the right direction.
Oh, I think you're right. And it's a little detour off the record or bass or anything else, but it's sort of appropriate, I think, at this moment, what we covered here. So, yeah, I used to play bass so people would love me. I mean, I'm playing fast. Love me, love me, love me, love me. My great, love me, love me. And when that paradigm shifted in me, it became no longer important to be loved by the diverting it or by, bass demonstration. I found a kind of a liberty, and a lot more music began to come out, new things, new ideas, new playing. So there was a kind of a benefit for letting go and trying to grow as a person, because it affects everything, your relationships, your music, just everything. So there you
Somebody,
go. Listen, my wife's going to call me in a few minutes. When she does, can you just pause me and I'll talk with her and then come back?
sure, that's no problem.
Okay.
No problem at all. Anything I need to do, you got it. You got it.
You
So
want to hear a tremolo bar without a tremolo bar on a bass?
sure.
You know how a tremolo bar goes like that?
Wow.
That's it. Let me see if I can. Give me a second. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, I got it. That's one of the things I've been practicing, quite a bit.
I gotta
Just because it's sort of unusual. I don't know where I did this at the beginning of Creams, but I want to do it more and explore it further.
I gotta ask you something, because I mean, when I was practicing, and I admit I am not good at the bass at all, but there would be sometimes I would pick a song that just kind of makes me laugh because it's just goofy for some reason. Do you ever have a song like that that pops in your head?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of the older ones. I mean, there's this odd tune from the '60s called "Shut Up or You Face."
Oh yeah.
They're coming to
Shut
take
up in
you
your
away.
face.
Shut up or you face. So I don't know, like things like that. I'm a deep listener. It's always been with me. Even as a child, I would listen to music, but I would climb into the music. It was an interesting, odd sort of perspective of mine. So I got so into the music that sometimes I missed the artistic reason for it. And even that had to sort of change. So humor, I don't know, not much, but I can't say a whole lot made me giggle or anything in music, although a lot of great music made me smile.
Is there anything you like to do outside of music?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a reader and I go to the gym, those are sort of the things that I do. I like to cook. I'm not good. So pretty much that. And I practice a fair amount because I'm a teacher. And I teach online, or I'll teach, I have books, but the books are for people that want to play better. There's no tab, because I don't feel tab will help people. It's notes, actual written notes. And so that's part of what I do also. If I'm not playing, it's like I'm writing material that, for publication or to help people to play better if they're interested in it. I had an idea that everybody, if they can play, can pretty well groove or play a song with authenticity. So the things that I teach don't tend to go toward performance, which I feel bass players pretty well can handle, but go towards learning the notes. So because the bass is a pitch instrument. So I do that, and that's about it. I really don't have a great breadth of projects that I do right now in my life. I used to box. I never fought, but I sparred. I was a gym rat. Um, that went away after I came out of therapy, and that aggressive nature, I lost all interest. I used to know the stats. I knew fighters. I followed it. I practiced it. Right now, it's the furthest thing from my mind. So I don't know. That's about it. I'm transcribing. Transcribing means I put headphones on. I write out stuff to help me with my playing. So you pretty well encompassed my whole life. Next year, I'm out on the road again. I like the road because you eat well, you meet good people, and you play most days. I like being a sideman. Love being a sideman. A lot of guys don't call me for it because they say, oh, he's so good, he doesn't want to do this. And it's sort of been my ongoing legacy. So I accept it, but I like playing simple. I like playing rock. I like playing in bands. And I like recording that stuff. So I did a lot more before COVID, but after COVID, I meet people. Oh, you don't want to do this. You're so good. You don't want to. And I said, okay, part of the legacy of too much practice. But I like practicing. I like getting better. So I don't know. I enjoy that.
You had some great people playing on that album with you and some great singers. Can you talk about them and how you got them on board?
I was fortunate. I had Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee from Rush.
Mm-hmm.
I had Eric Johnson play. I had Johnny Hyland, a country legend. He played on Train Time. I had Gary Husband play on the Cream Jam on L'Angelo Misterioso, which was a nom de guerre for George Harrison. Nom de plume. Gary played. We flew him in for the drum jam or for the Cream Jam. Scott Henderson played guitar. Tony Levin, Billy Sheehan, Michael League from Snarky Puppy, Mark King, Ron Carter played. Marcus Miller, Nathan East, and then followed by Geddy Lee. And it was all kind of a bass line that Jack wrote. Each guy did this, then each guy solo. And then did their little thing. So there was these wonderful players. Sammy Hagar did the
My
vocal.
favorite. Love
Well,
Sammy.
I agree. In rock, I mean, he sings a melody and rocks at the same time. He's just remarkable.
Yes,
and I really got the right person. He was so kind to come and do it. He didn't have to.
And you had Billy Sheehan.
Had Billy Sheehan in part of, I called it a bass relay, where each guy played the 4-bar bass line that I just demoed, and then each guy soloed 4 bars. So it might be the first bass relay in bass ever. So it came out very well. It's organized, sequential. The record was originally recorded when I did the keyboards with a click track. And then the drummer, Bruce Guttridge from Nashville, did all the drums. He's such a great player, I had to have him. And then we did the bass. Once we had bass, my keyboards were on there and his drums. Everybody else was flown in, flew in apart. And so the whole record, horns were overdubbed. Each of these 8 guys was overdubbed. And what pleases me is that sequentially it came out perfectly. It's actually an organically well done record due to the production ability of John McCracken. He's the guy that actually made this record what it became. Mm-hmm. And so even though we couldn't all go in a room together, it sounds sort of like we did.
I thought you did, listening to it. Y'all blended it so well. Man, it's such a great variety of people that came on your album, and it's just, I can't say enough good about it. I enjoyed every song.
You're very kind, and I'll follow up and with a great deal of pride, and the reviews have been stunning. We're in a time now where listening to music is a little challenging, as you said, that there's more of an interest in the electric stuff. But this record is set up to be sort of brain popping. It's supposed to be a sonic tour de force, and something really different in 2022. So your words are very kind, and people have been very forthcoming about it. So
I don't know how many interviews you've done in your life, but has there ever been anything that you wanted to talk about that you never got to?
it's interesting. People don't bring up bass education. I'm pretty controversial for it.
Mm-hmm.
And often, practically every time, nobody seems to mention it or say, what do I feel or think about it? But it's a kind of I would say, should I go into this?
Sure, you go for it, man. You go for it.
Well, here we go. Even at my age, I'm still learning and still trying to find calm and peace. And I've been exceptionally critical of Steve Bailey at Berkeley and Victor Wooten for their educational acumen. These are two popular musicians. My pathology, I don't know the word, but pick a synonym, was because of my background that we criticized. My family were critics. I criticized, and I tried to stop without actually understanding why. Just people didn't like it. Oh, well, I apologize. And then I'd fall back into it. Then I'd do it again, and I'd fall back into it, and then I'd apologize, and then I'd go back again. Well, he did this article, and this isn't the way to do it. And not long ago, I had a very cathartic event happen inside. Actually, my wife was part of it because she explained, you really haven't done well with your criticisms, and you shouldn't do that. And I'll tell you the truth, Kyle. I regret very, very much my critical ways, especially against Victor and Steve and Berkeley. And it was so uncalled for. It was so out of proper relationships. I alienated his fans, Victor's fans. I upset Berkeley students. I did all of these things, and people told me about it for the longest time, and I ignored it, or it didn't penetrate. Well, it did. It penetrated deeply to where I called up these guys and I said, look, I got their phone messaging machines. And as sincerely as I could, I said, I want to apologize for everything that I had done and every cruel and unnecessary critical thing that I had done. I just did this recently. And the thing is, you can't undo years of online verbal critical kind of abuse or this type of thing and expect to erase it with one apology when 12 other apologies didn't stick. So my situation is that I recognize, excuse me as I go long into this, it's painful for me, that I have the greatest regret for that kind of behavior that you can imagine, and for alienating people, for being what I was and the things that I said, that I owe a debt. So that's really, I have such a regret that you cannot imagine. And I'm stuck with it because I can't pick on you. By the way, is it spelled K-Y-L-E?
K-Y-L-E, yes, sir.
If I pick on Kyle's podcast for 20 years and then I apologize and do it 100 times and then finally get the message, why should you believe me? So I'm really stuck with what I've created, and the only hope I have is that over time I can be seen as who I am. People will accept forgive me. And that's why I talked to Stanley today, because I said, man, I regret this. I regret my behavior.
deeply. I mean, to the point where I haven't had, haven't been able to think about much else. Just what did I do? So I don't know if I can ever be forgiven for what I had done for all those years, because these guys invited me in and I turned my back on it. My pathology, my wrong, my mental thing, So I had a lot to make up for and have a lot to make up for. But since you asked the question, it's funny you should, because this is the exact time when I've been going through the most difficulty for what I had done. And I'm really, really sorry for it. And it's over with. I won't do it anymore. But more than that, I want to respect that people teach differently and that students have different interests in the teaching. I have my beliefs and I'm pretty strong in them, but I deeply regret what my behavior of many years, man. This is not a short-term thing. So there you go. I have to sort of deal with this. And I've been in a great bit of sort of anxiety, or upset about realizing what I had done.
I've met a lot of people and some pretty big name folks. For the most part, most the ones that I have met are really good people. But then there are those that their ego is just way up, as we say here, too big for the britches.
Yeah.
They have such an ego that even the thought of apologizing would never cross their mind. So the sign of a good person is like what you just did.
Hmm.
And you took the step, you apologized. Now the ball's in their court, whether they accept it or not. It that part doesn't matter. It's the fact that you did it, and now you have to learn to forgive yourself. So even if they don't forgive you, you still need to learn to forgive yourself.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. But it's funny that us talking, because this is like the last several days. I mean, this is literally, I've been like, like this for, well, several days. So when I realized what I had done, but you see, I used the internet to cause my harm. So that's why in this particular opportunity here, I'm going to use the internet in order to try to own it, and see if there's a way that I can make it up to these guys somehow. I'd love to make it up. I mean, I hurt myself, but I wasn't kind. So yeah, this is my inheritance. There's a word for this, I can't put it. It's what I wrought, and so I just want to have the opportunity to be a better person to them and everybody else, not be critical of people because they choose things that make them happy or what they want to do. I was wrong, wrong as can be. So anyways, forgive me, I'm a little tongue-tied here. I don't know if I'm making sense. You know what, these guys, the gentlemen that they are, they took it on the chin like the gentlemen that they are. This big mouth Berlin was out there and they took it on the chin and they were decent about it like the gentlemen that they are. And I don't know if I could have held such high standards under the same situation. So yeah, man, I'm not well with myself right now.
But you did apologize, and I thank you for using my platform to do that. I know it's difficult on you, and I'm not one to try to bring up something that's going to hurt my guest, but you were gracious enough to do that here, and I really deeply appreciate that.
I hope your guests don't mind that I did, and thanks. I mean, when guys, I'm in a little off the tangent here, but when guys like me, or maybe all of us, when we do something, we might have offended someone, once or for whatever. I've used it before. The analogy of Scrooge. You know what I mean? That the guy lived out kind of a bad life all his life, and then in one night he found redemption. I guess that was the word, or change. I went back and forth, went back and forth. But at this point, I'm not jumping out of bed with joy and yippee yippee. I actually crawl out of bed going, "What the hell did I do, you stupid idiot?" But the Scrooge analogy makes sense to me because I don't want to be this other guy. So, so I did use your platform, and I'm really pleased you asked that question.
You're a great guy. You've been nothing but gracious since the moment you came on to my Zoom.
Gee whiz, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And being here is a pleasure. I genuinely mean it. I mean, I'm a four-string, string picker, who released a record. I mean, and look at all the good that has come from that, one of which is meeting you,
Thank you.
and having a chance to meet your constituency, your fans, your followers. So I'm a pretty lucky guy.
The main thing is, that you have people that love you. They genuinely do. And
I love them back. I mean it. My fans are quite amazing people. They've been with me for 40 years. We've all gotten walkers together, So
I'm right there with you. Jeff, do you have a website?
JeffBerlinMusicGroup.com. It's the only place where the CD is located right now. I mean, I sold it because I wasn't happy with Spotify and some of the online offerings because they didn't pay musicians. So it occurred to me, if people want to download, just go to JeffBerlinMusicGroup.com to get a high-res download or MP3, or they can buy the CD. And you're touting the record. I'm going to say this online has been quite an honor to me, man. What you've said about the record is really quite an honor because you listen to music all the time. You go back as far as
people try to put us down. Talking about my generation.
So you have a long-term listening background. So I want to thank you for your kind words.
I appreciate that, really. Well, the name of the album is Jack Songs by Jeff Berlin. And I love music for music. So if that's the kind of person you are, you're going to enjoy the album. I highly recommend it. I will put the link to everything in the description. So all you have to do is click on it and go straight to it. Jeff, what all social media are you on?
Facebook. I'm really pretty narrow. I don't know where else to go. I'm not very good at this. I don't know this stuff. So I have my Facebook pages, which is a fan page, and then my personal page, and then Jeff Berlin Plays Jack Bruce. So I have 3 pages. And I have JeffBerlinMusicGroup.com. Oh, I also have Instagram, don't I? And I have Twitter. So I guess I'm wrong. I lied through my teeth. See, after all that confession for the soul, I just lied. Forget everything I said. Everybody can go to hell. So the interview's in the can. What do I care? Do whatever you want.
Thank you, Jeff, for being on my show. It's really been an honor and a privilege, and I just keep thank you.
The honor and the privilege is mine, Kyle, and thank you. And thank you to your kind listeners. Genuinely, from the heart, I enjoyed every minute of it.
I definitely have to thank the listeners. Some of you are here for the first time, and I appreciate that. I hope you will come back in spite of my goofiness. But please hit the subscribe button. It would really help us out. We've got a lot of projects that we're trying to do, and the more views we get, we'll of course earn more money, and we're working for an advocacy group for veterans. We're trying to help those that are homeless, trying to help them not only get a place to stay, but put some food in their belly and get them the help that they need, both physically and mentally. And for my regulars out there, you know how much I appreciate you. It's because of you that I get to do this. This is wonderful. I get to meet people like Jeff, and it's made my life just freaking incredible. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, and peace.